So, Vicky, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me about websites and all of that tricky stuff. Before I pressed pause, we started a before I pressed play even, we started a conversation about how difficult it is and how long it takes for anybody running a business, and we're talking specifically here about complementary therapists, but people to suddenly realize that actually there's a lot more than just doing the treatment. And
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, that's a really jarring realization that they aren't just therapists anymore, because that's the thing they want to do. They want to deliver the treatments. They want people to have transformational results. They want their clients to be, they want them to have these fabulous outcomes. And when they discover that they've got to become the CEO and the marketer and their bookkeeper and the admin person, suddenly it starts to become a little bit overwhelming. And so many people, I literally can't count the amount of people who have said to me over the last 20 odd years that I've been in business, all I want to do is I just want to do the work. I just want to do the coaching. I just want to do the therapy. And if someone could wave a magic wand and just do all of the marketing for me so that my pipeline is always full, I always have clients booking in, literally my business would be an absolute joy. But that marketing piece and that bookkeeping piece and the admin, I think it weighs a lot of people down, and it's a difficult transition to make.
it is, and you've just actually used a term there that some of my audience will probably go, "What's she talking about? A pipeline? Why do I need a pipe?"
Yeah.
And it's that sort of thing. It's understanding that your audience and your pipeline and your funneling is all about getting to know your clients. And I think I always say, a business card is not a magnet for clients. It doesn't, don't hold it up and go, "Here you go, I got a business, woohoo, and I've
Yeah.
got these clients." They need to get to know you, and a website is about how people get to know you because it's all about you. And one of the things that I find very frustrating with a lot of therapists, and my own included, and I have to speak very nicely to them, but they hide behind business names that don't mean anything. And on their social media, they've got these lovely pictures of, I don't know, lotus leaves or angels or whatever it is. And that's lovely, but it doesn't help the client understand the person that they are going to be spending an hour and a half, 2 hours with.
Yeah.
And that's really where a website or a landing page or something or other come in to make that transition.
Yeah, it can help. And, let's be frank, social media can help with that as well. If you've got the energy and the time and the capacity to actually get involved over there, because you can engage and you can start conversations over there. And a website, yes, a website is about the business owner, it is about the therapist, it is about the coach or whoever it is that's running the business, but actually it's as much about their client as well as it is about the person themselves. But like you say, it's an opportunity for people to have a chance to really have some experience of what it is that they're going to offer, what the outcome is going to be of working with them, and get a little opportunity to start to know, like, and trust them. And that's the piece that can really make a huge difference. Because if your website can start to do that for you, that's when you start to have a predictable flow of people coming through your business. Because especially with therapists, a lot of work comes through referrals. And a huge amount of people will just rely on that word of mouth referrals. And that's amazing because the people who come in from referrals are like, they're the best clients, they're the best prospects, because when someone says to you, "Oh, you must go and see so and so because she's absolutely amazing," then the chances are they're already 90% sold. Like, they need very little more persuasion. But that is, let's use the word pipeline again. It's an unpredictable pipeline because you don't know when those conversations are going to happen. You have no control over them at all. Whereas with your website, you have complete control over that. And so if you can start creating that predictable pipeline, it becomes so much easier. And that feeling of like just pushing a boulder uphill to get enough people through the door to make that therapy practice viable, it starts to become so much easier when you have this 24/7 salesperson just always on that never takes a day off sick and is constantly working hard for you. If you set it up correctly, if you're using the right kind of language, the right kind of messaging, and really understanding who it is who's going to be visiting your site and what it is that they're looking for.
I think that's a really key point, and that's where I see a lot of websites are really missing a trick, because yes, it is important that the prospective client actually gets to know a little bit about you, and you can do that through your blog posts or some articles or linking to Facebook media or Instagram where it's a little bit more in sort of about you. But actually, the clients really don't care. They don't care what qualifications you've got, ridiculously. They don't care whether you have been in business for X number of years. They care about what they're going to be able to get from you. They care about, is the appointment times that you've got available suitable for them, or have they got to, change everything? They want to know how they can pay. They want to know what happens if they've got a last minute. And it's all about them. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people new in business forget it's about the client and think it's all about them. And a
Yeah.
website, if it's done properly, and so the question is, well, how do I know what properly is? And that's where you come in, isn't it?
Yeah, and all of that is so valid. Those pieces of information, those are the frustrations we have, because when we're struggling with something, it might be that we're struggling with it at 2 a.m. and we're scrolling, we're looking for that information. And really your website, it has one job, and that is to move people closer to working with you. And that could mean booking a call, booking a treatment, signing up for your emails. It's not necessarily about looking fancy for the sake of it. A website, some really high performing websites that I've seen look terrible. That's not to say that they should. They would probably perform much better if they did look good and have a good visual impact. But a high converting website doesn't necessarily need to be gorgeous. It's about being clear, simple, really user friendly, guiding people step by step from a curious visitor or a challenged visitor to a confident client. And so what you were saying, Louise, about really they don't necessarily care about your qualifications and about how long you've been in business, that's all so valid. Really what they want to know is, can you help me? Can you fix this problem that I've got, something that I'm really struggling with? And when we start to see that struggle, when we start to see that challenge and we articulate it and we speak to it on our website, that's when the emotional connection comes in. So if we say, I'm a holistic therapist and I can help you with IBS, well, that's great. But actually, if you start speaking to what that IBS is meaning for their life, and the fact that they sometimes can't leave the house, they can't go to their children's recital, they can't go and visit their elderly mother because they literally they feel like they're housebound. It's at that time when you start to articulate those real life struggles that people are having, that people feel seen, and then they are so much more likely to go, okay, Louise gets it. I need to speak to her because she really understands what I'm going through and what the impact is that this is having on my life. And if you can take someone from that, I often refer to them as Island A to Island B, where the grass is so much greener and everything is like joyful and happy. If you can create that bridge from Island A to Island B and make them see how much better their life is going to be once they've worked with you, then your job is done. It doesn't matter what modality you're using. It doesn't matter, what kind of therapy you're going to use to help people and the method that you're going to take them, whether you're going to take them from Island A to Island B in a boat, or whether you're going to fly them across, or whether you've got some crazy paragliding mechanism that you're going to use. As long as they're going to end up on that Island B, which is where the grass is green and there's so much joy and happiness, that's all they want. And if your website can talk to them in those kind of words that they really understand, like not like me talking about pipelines and jargon and all this kind of stuff, then it's just going to be so much more successful, and you're going to have so many more inquiries through your website.
Brilliant. And I think this whole idea of, well, I've got to get a website, people also attach a cost to it that they believe is not sufficient to actually give them enough work. And that's where the whole idea about business planning and financial planning comes into play, is that you need to know what it is that you want to achieve from your website as well. So if you're starting out, which is the best place, I think, to start to think about these things, and you've worked your business plan and financial plan, and you've worked your cost of sale, etc., and you've invested, or you plan to invest for a website, and you know that you can recoup that by doing X number of treatments over a week, over a month, then you've got the cost that you selling your treatment to already built in with and this is going to pay for a website. But I can understand people that have they've just traded their time for money, and so they're used to that money that's coming in, and they now believe that that's the only amount of money that they've got, and out of that they've spent it all because is it the Parkinson's law or something that we always spend or use as much as is available to us.
Yeah, it's Parkinson's law. It's the same with time. That
Hmm.
like you could have a month to do a project and you probably still do it in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess the only way around that is to be really clear about, well, I want my website to actually increase my client load by 5 clients a month or something. And then you could be very clear and very specific on what your outcome of your website is.
Yeah, and what those extra 5 clients are going to mean for your bottom line. But I mean, let's be honest, when we're starting out in business, so many of us just want to bootstrap it. We want to do things on a shoestring, on a budget. We don't have a huge amount of money. And that those 5 clients, we could be spending that money on something else, on a new massage bed or, some new equipment or something that feels more tangible and meaningful for whatever it is that we're delivering. So I totally understand it. And honestly, when I started my business 23 years ago, I was exactly the same. I bootstrapped my own logo because in those days there was no Canva. I did it on Illustrator and it was awful. And do you know, I spent weeks doing it and it was like the biggest waste of 2 weeks of my life because it was just so diabolical.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people are still doing that with websites. The reality though is now the tools and the online interfaces that we have at our disposal are so much better than they were when you and I first started our businesses.
Absolutely.
And so it is easier to get started on a shoestring. It is easier to bootstrap things. But there's a cost benefit analysis that we need to do with that and really think about, okay, I can spend however long it's going to take me to learn to build my own website and DIY it and do it using YouTube videos and everything else that I can bring myself to kind of find my way through, or I can get support and have someone help me figure out how to do it so that it can grow with me, or I can just pass it over to a web designer and ask them to do it for me. And those have a scale of expense and cost attached to them on each one of those levels. And at each one of those levels, there's a time cost and there's a money cost, and then it's almost like a seesaw. And so really it just depends where people are in their own journey as to how confident they feel with making those kind of investments. And for some people it's simply not possible to bring a professional designer on board to build their website. And I mean, I would say, and I'm slightly biased because this is what I do, but I would say a sweet spot is finding a DIY program where you can have support, because then your website can grow with you because you are able to keep on growing it. You can alter it if you pivot and change. If your services switch a little bit, then your website can evolve in the same way as your business is evolving. That's really important. But it's really what people's own capacity for kind of rolling up their sleeves and getting involved in that process is, and also their own capacity for investing in support. So I think it's really important to recognize your own capacity and your own limitations and how you feel about things as to what is going to work best for you. And I would say that actually right from the outset, when people are really starting out, when they're at kind of ground zero and they don't have anything in place yet, you don't need a full website. You really, really don't. Like a one-pager is absolutely fine to get you started with, because your business will shift and evolve in your first 6 months of business. And what you think you're going to start doing right now might look very different in 6 to 12 months' time. And so you don't want to have spent a huge amount of money on a developer building a website that's really focused on those services for you. And so, yeah, I think, but there is something about having an online space right from the outset, which is almost like your stake in the ground, that up levels your mindset around your own business as well. Because I think with therapists, especially, there's this almost like this imposter syndrome mindset that kicks in really easily because often they have done some training alongside another job. And so when they start this as a business, it almost feels like a sideline, almost like a hobby. And so to really up level your mindset that this, okay, I'm taking this seriously, this is a business. A website can do a huge amount in terms of up leveling that and making us think, okay, people can take me seriously now. I can take myself seriously because this is real and I'm going to make it happen. And so I do think that there's massive credit in getting something up there with a professional logo and some really good styling and just a one pager. And it can be really simplistic. All that one pager really needs to do is say what you do, who you do it for, and why your services are unique, and how people can get in touch with you. That really, it doesn't need to be any more complex than that to start with. And that sometimes can be enough for people to go, okay, yeah, this feels good now. This is my business. I can hand out my business cards. I can start using a professional email address now that's associated with my domain name, my web address. And people can go and find me online. And my web address can start gaining some credibility in the search engines during that time as well.
I'm glad you mentioned about mindset and sort of the way in which you approach your business, because the way that a lot of people approach their business is exactly what you've just said. It's that, oh, I'm not good enough, I've only just qualified, who am I to do? And I agree with you 100% that it is a stake in the ground. It's like, it's accountability. I'm out there and I've got to now step up and be that person I want to be. So it's absolutely, brilliant. I totally agree with you also about having a landing page or a one-page website. Talk to me a little bit about the thing around professional email addresses and domain names, because that's something that some people might not understand how those two work together, and why having a, I don't know, loopyloo@hotmail.com is not necessarily the best email to present yourself with.
Yeah. So if I kind of like backtrack a little bit and just go back to the kind of foundational pieces, and for some people they'll know this already, but there's 5 elements to every website. Like, so whether you're visiting, a solopreneur's website, someone who literally works on their own, a one-man band, or whether you're visiting Nike.com, Apple.com, Amazon, or whatever it might be. These 5 things every website has in common. And the first one is a domain name, and that is a web address. It's a unique address that people can type into a browser on their laptop and can land in the right place. So they land on your website. So that's a domain name. It's a critical part of your online presence. You can't exist online without having that domain name. It doesn't need to be an expensive asset. So usually they'll cost less than about £10 a year to register. And I'm using the word register with intent, because people talk about buying a domain name, and you don't ever buy a domain name. You register the right to use it for a certain period of time. And what that means is it can expire and it can be released for other people to register if you don't renew it. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I have come across so many horror stories with domain names, and I'm not doing it to scaremonger anybody, but there's something, actually, Louise, if this is all people take away from this, I would love for people to register their own domain name, and if it's one that you want to keep, put it on auto renew, so you can't miss that renewal email going through, and no one can ever hold you to ransom for your email or for your domain name. Sorry, did I say email address? I meant domain name. It's a small investment, so like £10 a year, let's say, but it's a huge asset for your business going forwards. And so you want to make sure that it's something that you own. You don't ask your spouse to register it for you. You don't ask your brother or your brother-in-law or your cousin or your 17-year-old nephew or your best friend or anyone else. You register it. It's really straightforward. And I've got blog posts that teach you how to register your own domain name.
Brilliant. So I'm sure people will want at least that. So I will I'll find that and put that out as well. And just to confirm that I have been victim of that, only in as much as I went for a cheaper domain name hosting domain name registration, and I then wanted to use that within 3 months. with a different hosting site, and I had to wait for 3 months. So I had owned it for 3 months before I could transfer it over. So
Yeah. Yeah, but that, I mean, at least it was still your asset. But what I've seen a lot of people, like I've seen divorces where people have demanded half of the business because they had registered the domain name. I've seen web developers register a domain name that disappear off the face of the earth. And that then when a website is built on that domain name and then someone can't get hold of it, it
yeah,
becomes very, very difficult to recover it. And that for someone who's built up a business around that domain name and that brand can be really devastating sake of that £10 a year and for the sake of maybe 10 minutes of your time to register it yourself rather than asking somebody else to do it for you, it's so worth it. So you can tell I bang that drum a lot, but so that's the first pillar of every website. The second pillar of every website is hosting, and hosting is basically just like a big computer where I like to think of it as a filing cabinet, and when someone types in your domain name, then it sends a message to a particular drawer of that filing cabinet to retrieve your web files, and then it serves them up to that person's computer. That's all it is. It's storage. You have to pay for it. And on some web platforms like Wix or Squarespace, you won't ever have to get involved in the hosting of it because they organize it all for you as part of your subscription. So a lot of people are like, well, I don't pay for hosting for my website, but your website is being hosted. It's just that you haven't had to get involved in the process. So that's the second thing. So the first thing is a domain name. The second thing is hosting. The third thing is a platform. So Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, WordPress, you've probably heard of lots of them, GoDaddy, there's like a gazillion different website platforms that you could use. And it's not strictly true that every website has a platform, because when I first started building websites in 2003, I was building just with HTML and CSS, just basically code, because platforms didn't exist back then. And you still can do that. It's just, it might take 3 days to build out a website, a web page, whereas now you could do one in 30 minutes. So pretty much, I would say 90% of websites now use some kind of platform. The fourth element of every website is a theme or a template, because with those platforms, you get some kind of skin that helps you with the look and feel and the layout of your website. And then the fifth element of every website is content. So that's the words that you're using, the images that you're putting on there, the multimedia content, whatever it might be. Your website doesn't exist if there is no content on it. It's just a blank space. And so those 5 things are important for every single website. And then so I just wanted to kind of clarify that before I revert back to your question about an email address. So I've addressed it in a really long, a roundabout route, but I wanted people to understand those foundations because it's important. Because your domain name can form the basis of your email address, and it should form the basis of your email address. So you don't want to be operating as a business person using a Hotmail, a Gmail, an AOL, any of those, because it really screams mediocrity and it makes it seem like you're an amateur who isn't really taking a business seriously. And again, it goes back a little bit to that mindset piece. It's like you want to have all of your ducks in a row with your business, and your email address is very often the first impression that someone gets of you as a business person. And so if you have holistictherapies@gmail.com as your email address, there's no way for them to follow a thread then. Whereas if you're using Jane Doe at holistictherapies.com, they can follow that thread to holistictherapies.com. Good luck if you want to register that as a domain name, but they can see that there's a business behind the email address. And for me, one of the first things that people should be doing before they build a website is getting that professional email address up and running. And in order to make that happen, you need to have registered your domain name and you need to host your email address somewhere. That's a conversation for a whole other time, because that doesn't need to freak people out because it feels really techy. You can get an email address up and running on your domain name reasonably well, quickly, and with a reasonable lack of tech skill.
That's good because most of our therapists always complain that they have no tech skill.
Yeah.
They do, they just are afraid of it, and they think it's something that is difficult, and it's not easy peasy because we don't know it and we don't know what we don't know. But as soon as we know,
That's exactly it.
we can find out.
Yeah, and do you know what's one of the most exciting things that I find when people come onto my say course to build their website is the excitement that people have when they realize that they can do it. They've been putting it off and they've been scared of it for the longest time, and then all of a sudden it clicks into place and it's like, oh, it really wasn't that hard. It was like, why have I been making such a big deal of it? They kind of thought it was this huge mountain they had to climb, and then when they realize it's not, there's this massive relief. And this huge sense of achievement because it's like, I did that. I remember one lady, she came on my Rock That Website course and she was like, my kids are so proud of me because they think I'm such a dinosaur. All the stuff she thought she couldn't do actually turned out not to be that terrifying after all. But I think, people are therapists. This isn't necessarily stuff that they have wanted to or had to ever dig into before. And so all of the terminology around it, all of it just feels difficult and frightening, and yeah, it's
But you're right, that whole sense of achievement when you realize that actually you now know something you didn't know before
yeah,
is worth its weight in gold. And I think what you're doing, Vicky, is so powerful because you're giving people options and choices. When I first started my business, I had no choice. It was all code. And so therefore I wasn't able to build my own. But I've built 2 websites now. And it's really interesting how intuitively those platforms are built, the templates are built. It's
yeah.
so easy, and you're then there to help and guide and give the structure and the support of actually what should be going into it. So that's, yeah. So tell us a bit more about that.
Well, so marketing is my background. So I started off as marketing director for a conservation organization in California and had to build our own website because it was our biggest expense. And this was back in 2002, where websites were a little bit of a novelty. And so the fact that we even had one was, we were really proud of that. But every time we wanted an update to our website, it was literally taking a child out of school in Zambia, or it was taking a patrol off the anti-poaching trail in Zambia. And so we had a choice to make. And I said to my CEO one day, do you know what, how difficult can this be? Can I not just take over the management of the website and we start doing the updates in-house? There was no YouTube, there was no Google. And so it was really a question of me just going and buying some books and hoping for the best. And it was terrifying. I literally thought the sky was going to fall in when I first started tinkering with our website. But what I realized was so many people then started asking me for help with their websites. And I was like, I have no clue. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm literally doing this on a wing and a prayer. And our PR agency asked me for help with theirs. One of our board of directors asked me for help with theirs. And so I sat with them and we kind of muddled through it. And then when I came back to the UK to get married the following year, and I picked up with some of my old contacts, I had used to work with the BBC and I was starting to do marketing contracts for them. And I said, could I build your website whilst I'm doing the marketing contract? And so that's how it came about. And what I realized was that people actually wanted to not just build all these bells and whistles websites, they wanted ones that were really very focused on marketing and bringing in new clients. And so that became my niche, working with small business owners to build out marketing focused websites for them. And very little has changed with that. But in 2015, I started to teach people how to build their own websites. And that came about because I was supporting someone who was working specifically with therapists about how to get sold out therapy businesses. And she asked me to go in there and support her therapists with all of the tech, setting up their webinars and their email marketing. And 3 of the women on that course said, could you help us build our website? And I was like, oh, I don't know if I could. It's kind of tricky. It's a bit technical. And so that's how Rock That Website was born, was because I said, let's give it a go. The tools now are more intuitive, they are more forgiving, so let's give it a go. And so what I now do is I work specifically with coaches, therapists and course creators to help them build websites that actually work, not just pretty online brochures, what I call sleeping beauty websites. So my main program is my 8-week Rock That Website program, where I guide people step by step to build their own site with my support.
Fabulous. And did you say earlier that you've got one coming up? Do you do it live, or is it evergreen, or how does it work? People
Yeah,
want...
no, I run it in cohorts. So my next group starts on Wednesday this week, and it's an 8-week program, and I run it regularly. So I went through a phase for 2 years. I've been running it evergreen, and then this year I brought back the cohorts because I actually just really love the group energy when you're all starting together and you're all finished together, and everyone's running through things at a similar pace. So I really missed that when I was running it on Evergreen. And I think it's important for us to recognize sometimes, we want to shift the format and the container that we're working with people in. And so when I ran my first group program again in June this year, it was like I just felt like a kid in a sweetie shop. I was just like so excited to be back in that, okay, this is our starting point. So it runs for 8 weeks, and everyone starts with nothing. Some people come in to revamp their website, but a lot of people are starting with absolutely nothing at all. And then we all finish together, which is a really nice feeling.
It's a little bit like my business building, taking people that have got nothing, and actually at the end of it, they've got a business and they've got all the structure in place, apart from the website. And that's where I put them over to you, Vicky.
Yeah, but it's a nice feeling, isn't it? Where people are so often with their business, not necessarily just their website, they just don't know where to get started, and they don't know how to put all of those systems in place. And it's so valuable to have some kind of support like this, like that you
Accountability
offer.
as well. That's the other thing, because most of us are great procrastinators. I sometimes find myself cleaning my oven, and that's the point where I think, what am I avoiding? There's
Yeah,
something I should be doing here.
exactly that. If I find myself ironing, like ironing doesn't happen in my house unless there's something I'm really definitely avoiding.
It's good to recognize all of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's really, really helpful. And I think enlightening as well. And I think that people that are listening to this will come away with maybe I could do this. And so I'm going to put all the notes of where to find you, and details of your various courses, because you do lots of different courses as well. So there's lots of things. So people that have got websites that just maybe want to check whether their websites are actually doing what they should be doing, there's stuff on your website for that as well, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I just think for people who are getting started, the main takeaway is register your own domain name. I'll send you a link to that blog post.
Okay, great.
And for people who already have a website and they wanted to improve it, I would just think every page should answer one question, and that's, what is the next step I want my visitors to take? And because very often when we put our website together without much of a plan or having mapped it all out first, those things are missing. We don't ever want to create those dead ends. So for those people who are listening who do already have a website and are thinking, okay, how could I improve it? That's a really good, easy way to go through and have a look at your homepage and your about page and your services page, and just think, is there a logical next step for people to take, or am I just letting them hit a dead end and a brick wall? Just there should be a beautiful flow through your website, taking them onto the next stage and bringing them closer to working with you.
I think what a lot of people don't do is they don't take independent advice. And the problem I have with everything I do is I know what I'm thinking from my point of view, and I assume that other people do as well. And I see it a lot when I go on to other websites of my therapists, and it is that it's like, well, okay, now what? And I can't get back anywhere, and I can't do anything. So you just close the website then, don't you?
Yeah, well, fresh, yeah, you do. Fresh eyes can just be so valuable. I showed my brother, I was away for my mum's birthday, this was a few months ago, in the Lake District, and I was working on my Sunday newsletter, and my brother looked over my shoulder and he was like, can I read it? So he read it. You have that moment of, I don't know, actually, this feels a bit vulnerable with my brother reading my stuff. It's going out to thousands of people on my email list, but I'm not sure I want him to read it. And his feedback was so eye-opening. It was just magic. It was such gold. So I think all of us really benefit from having those fresh eyes on different areas of our business, whether it's, the emails that we're sending out, or the website that we're putting out into the world, or the way that we're setting up our online onboarding system when we're bringing in new clients,
Yeah.
or our bookkeeping, whatever it is. Just having somebody else looking out or looking in is, yeah, it's gold, really.
And that's where the imposter syndrome starts to click in as well, isn't it? People kind of think, "Oh, I don't want anybody to see it," as you
Yeah.
were doing with your brother. But we really need to just step over that
Yeah, exactly. That fear of visibility, we just got to realize if we want our businesses to be successful, we need people to know that we're there and what we offer.
and be proud of everything that we've done. I mean, the reflexology training is at least a year, and for some people is a good couple of years because of the amount of work they have to do. And I don't think there's enough recognition at the end of that of actually just how amazing these people are.
Yeah, yeah. Let's celebrate it.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Vicky. That's been absolutely amazing. And hopefully, you'll be helping a lot more people soon.
Thank you so much, Louise. Really nice to have been invited back.